What did Jenna Ellis do? You are deflecting.
No. So I said criminal conspiracy. Is that an answer?
What did she do?
So she had an agreement with Donald Trump and other co-conspirators to steal the 2020 election in Georgia, in the case of Georgia.
What did she do?
She had a criminal conspiracy.
That's circular. You're saying she was
not.
Hold on. You're saying she was charged with conspiracy because she had a conspiracy.
No.
I'm asking what actions she took that violated the law.
Yeah. So the action of the overt acts of communicating with other members of the conspiracy, helping them, giving them resources.
That's not what she was charged with.
No. She was charged with conduct related to the attempted theft of the election. And I don't, as I sit here, I don't know
It was for drafting a letter.
Facts. Yeah. So
requesting like legal documents from the state.
Requesting documents.
They said was in furtherance of the conspiracy.
Requesting documents to get fake slates of electors and to try to steal the election.
You see, again,
yes or no?
This is where the debate usually stops.
Why?
In the 1960 election, I've had this debate 800 million times. JFK, Nixon, the uncertified slate was sent for JFK, even though the election had already been called. They did not resolve the case until after the safe harbor provisions, but they decided we're going to send an uncertified slate anyway, and it was never considered fake. Now, if there was Supreme Court precedent set after the fact that uncertified slates of electors, meaning electors that were not duly elected but were submitted anyway, if they set precedent saying you cannot do this and Congress passed a law saying this is expressly illegal, I'd agree with you. But they didn't. So the legal theory that emerges in the 2020 case, though I disagree, I think Trump lost. I disagree with the people who think Trump won, was they've done this in the past. Why don't we have our electors submit before the safe harbor provisions, just like they did in Hawaii? Then Pence can choose to count or otherwise based upon what the judges rule. Now, if Donald Trump takes issue with an election, or anybody, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, whoever, and they say, 1, we are required legally to submit any formal paperwork before the safe harbor deadline. Afterwards, we cannot. I don't see how that's a criminal action. More importantly, if Trump goes...
Because no one has been charged with it before? You think it's not criminal?
Because there's no codified law saying it's illegal. The government doesn't...
There are laws against
RICO
criminal rackets.
Does not apply.
Wait. So...
It's my point.
I just want to be clear. So RICO can't apply in any novel situation. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, but you are making my point for me. That you've decided to interpret legal advice as a crime to use power against a political opponent.
So I ask, can legal advice be a crime? And I gave, and you objected, and you said he doesn't need to answer it. So So I asked you a question: can legal advice itself be a crime?
I'm not a lawyer. In some circumstances,
so is the answer you don't know?
Can legal advice be a crime? Let's broaden that.
So, no, why don't you answer it? You can say you don't know, or do you do not understand the terms? It can't be. So if I give you legal advice on how to, do you agree with that? By the way,
what?
Do you agree that legal advice can't be a crime? Cannot be a crime. Do you agree with him?
If someone. I don't. When you're saying advice, no.
This is the problem.
What the fuck, guys?
Because it doesn't make sense. Your question doesn't make sense.
You don't understand the terms.
If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, this is a crime I want to commit," right? Someone calls me up and says, "Hey, this is a crime I want to commit." I cannot further assist him. It would be wrong for me to then at that point say, "This is how you can."
So can legal advice? Wait. So can?
But
we're gonna get
I can tell
him.
him.
Stop. We're gonna get clear answers.
Get the same thing.
We're gonna get clear.
Legally.
We're gonna get clear answers.
But I'm answering the question.
Can legal advice be a crime? Yes or no?
No.
So what's your answer, Joe?
What I'm saying is, if you're giving it ethically, it cannot be.
Okay. Assume you're giving it unethically. Can it be a crime? Yes or no? We're gonna get a conflict here.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
You're playing a semantic game.
No, it's not semantic at all.
It certainly is.
What about it is semantic?
It's 100% semantic.
Colloquially, any person who is asked, "Are you legally? Do you have a legal right to legal advice?" 100% yes.
Yes.
When you use the phrase legal advice, you are playing a semantic game as to the definition you are choosing.
What do you mean by legal advice then? I'll ask you.
So if I go to a lawyer and say,
"What do you mean by legal advice?"
I'm telling you.
Okay.
So here's an example. We want to do a sweepstakes. We want to actually give our members at timcast.com once a month, we choose someone $10,000. If the lawyer then says, "That's illegal, you can't do that," I say, "Oh, okay, thank you." Now, what if they say, "Ooh, there's legalities which could make that illegal. Here's how you avoid breaking the law and actually make this work." That's not illegal.
So I'm asking you, as a definitional term, are you willing to provide a definition in your mind for what legal advice is, yes or no?
Legal advice is instruction and knowledge applied to an individual to better help them understand the law and how it applies to their circumstances.
In using that definition, can legal advice be a crime?
If it's just helping them understand, no, it cannot.
Helping them with the purpose of... So I'll just be clear. Using that definition, providing legal advice for the purpose of helping someone carry out a crime.
No.
I
didn't say that.
No. He used a broader definition of legal advice.
Okay, let's try again. Let me try again. Let me try again.
Go for it.
Here we go. Here's why you're wrong.
Yeah.
So a guy calls his lawyer and says, hey, man, I need money, and I'm trying to figure out how to get it. If I were to go to a guy and point a weapon at him and say, can I borrow $50? Is that illegal? And the lawyer's going to go, yeah, that's illegal. You can't. That's you're robbing them. You go to jail. Really? What if I just like put my hand in my pocket so it looked like I had a gun? You're still robbing them. That's illegal. Interesting. So I can't do that. No, you can't. And if you do something like that, you'll go to jail. All right. Thank you for the advice. I'm going to construct my actions now in a way that applies to the legal advice you gave me to help me carry out that crime.
No. Hang on.
The lawyer going to jail for that?
So what if the intention of the lawyer was to further that crime and make it more likely?
You a mind reader now?
No. In the criminal law, we do this all the time. It's called mens rea.
Indeed.
One of the biggest things that you have to do as a criminal lawyer is, if you're a prosecutor, is to prove mens rea. So I'll ask you, what if the purpose of the lawyer was to actually get him to commit the robbery?
Saul Goodman.
Yeah. So wait, but I'm going to get some answers from you guys one of these days. So if the purpose...
You give answers every time. If somebody dodged a question, I answered yes directly.
If the purpose of the advice is to further the crime, to make it happen, to have the outcome happen, that legal advice? Can that be a crime?
It is no longer legal advice. It is criminal advice.
So what you've done is you put in your definition of legal advice. You're saying legal advice by definition can't be illegal. And if your definition of legal advice says it can't be illegal, then I guess you're by definition correct. But most people's definition of legal advice doesn't include, it has to be legal advice.
Do people have a constitutional right to counsel?
Yes.
But that means they could be providing illegal activities to a defendant.
They could be.
So people have a constitutional right to some illegal activities?
No, so they have a constitutional right to legal advice, but doesn't mean that
this is a semantic issue.
No, it's not semantic. I'm happy to answer that question. They have a legal right to legal advice, 100%, to access and retrieve that legal advice. That doesn't mean that the advice they receive can also be a crime. There's no contradiction there. Agreed?
So challenge...
Wait, do you agree there's no contradiction there?
No.
What's the contradiction?
When we refer to legal advice, we are not referring to engagement in criminal activity. And if you have two guys and they're not lawyers, and one guy is advising the other guy on how to rob a bank, that's not legal advice. Just because you have a law degree doesn't make it legal advice.
Well, okay, so your definition of legal advice, that would be legal advice. I mean, you gave a definition that didn't say, and by the way, the legal advice can't be part of a criminal conspiracy. You're carving out the thing that would be
to definitely understand what is our constitutional right to counsel versus what is an illegal action.
So the right to counsel doesn't mean that the counsel you're receiving is legal itself. So they're different things, and there's no contradiction in what I'm saying.
To be honest, none of it really matters.
Why?
Because the interpretation of the actions of Jenna Ellis and Trump's other lawyers, I forgot their names, based in Wisconsin, was that Donald Trump approached them and said, how do I legally challenge an election? And they said, here's how you do it, and we'll draft it for you. And the government went, aha! We think that's a crime, so you're under arrest.
All right, so let me change that. So let me hypothetical just to make sure that this principle is being applied consistently. Let's say that Jenna Ellis said, okay, this won't work. What you have to do is you have to order the military to seize the halls of Congress and hold at gunpoint all the Congress people. And that will be, that way it'll just be the best way to do it.
That's an absurdity.
No, you can say it's an absurdity. It's called a hypothetical. And you provide hypotheticals to people. Are you going to say you're not going to answer it?
Unprecedented absurdity without codified law.
Wait, are you going to answer it, or you're going to say it's illegitimate, I don't have to answer it?
I'll answer any question you ask.
So if the question is...
If the Marshmallow Man showed up,
okay.
Should Trump call in the Ghostbusters next?
So if Jenna Ellis said something to the effect of, the best way to do this, Donald Trump, is and she wanted this to happen, right? Is for you to actually go with tanks into Congress, hold up some Congress people, kill them if you don't want, if they're challenging you. That way you head off any kind of impeachment.
So you're saying she instructed them to murder people,
to arrest people, to seize it and murder if necessary.
In what prospect of law can you go to a court and murder someone in the middle of a hearing?
No, you're saying the best. So this is why it's legal advice. She says one thing that could stop you from stealing the election would be if they held impeachment proceedings and immediately impeached and removed you. So one way to head that off from a legal perspective would be if those people could not attend their sit-ins, and I'm just letting you know, it would be really convenient if you killed them. And I want you to do that.
So instructing someone to commit murder is legal advice.
I'm asking, that
is not legal advice.
If you said, for example, in order to prevent this bad outcome, this bad judgment, you should kill you should kill a witness.
But there's no function of law where you're allowed to do that. There's no legal advice. That's a crime. It's murder.
It's tailored to a legal matter. It's tailored to a specific proceeding. Here we're talking about
it's not legal advice to instruct your client to murder someone. No.
Okay. So if your definition of legal advice excludes any illegal conspiracy, then by definition you've said legal advice.
No, you're trying to justify that Trump, under a circumstance with no codified law making it illegal. Now
you're backing up. We're in very specific territory right here, Tim. And the specific territory is
where in the law does it say you cannot send in your slate of electors before the safe harbor deadline?
Why should it have to say that?
To make it a crime.
Why?
Because in this country you can't be arrested for things the state makes up.
Okay, so does it have to? So there's the laws against, for example, lying to Congress. Fair. Mm-hmm. So do they have to list out all the possible lies you could tell to Congress in order for it to be legal? So lying to Congress about how much money you have in the bank, lying to Congress about, the effects of a law. They have to list out every single specific potential iteration of lying to Congress.
So you're
That's ridiculous, Tim.
Based on the interpretation of the state of Georgia, that they felt Jenna Ellis drafting a letter for Donald Trump was part of a criminal conspiracy. Yeah. She can be charged for that.
100%. She pled guilty because she is guilty.
So I guess my view is then if Donald Trump wants to interpret the actions of Mahmoud Khalil as threats to state secrets or state foreign policy, he should be deported too.
Wait, but you would condemn things that you feel went beyond the pale, right?
So now you're
wait. So
yes.
And people
Correct.
can argue about whether it's legal or illegal, and that's what you're doing right now.
Indeed, I am.
And you're willing to condemn the prosecution of Jenna Ellis, fair?
Yes.
Why aren't you willing to condemn the potential deportation of Mahmoud Khalil?
For the exact reason you have said Jenna Ellis as a lawyer should be charged is why I'm saying Mahmoud Khalil should be deported.
To test the legality of it because there's no specific law?
No. Because your arguments aren't based in law. It's your interpretation of what is and your moral worldview.
Well, I mean, it's based on the Supreme Court precedent that you seem to accept that these people have First Amendment rights. If they have First Amendment rights, what kind of First Amendment wouldn't protect someone who has that right from deportation based on protected activities? You seem to grant that they had that right, but now you're saying, I don't really know. They might as well test it.
So my point is the INA says they can have their visas revoked for whatever reason, whenever.
But
right?
Would that include religion-based reasons? And you said
doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh, we've been circling around this.
Well, because there's an inherent
you guys
just
know circling around.
Because if Trump said
carcass, why? And then you gaslight that we haven't answered your questions.
Yeah,
which is very, very frustrating because we answer your question over and over and over again. Then you're like, you will never answer this question. You keep dodging my questions. 2 seconds after we answer your questions. We've said how many times, both of us have taken the position, they have First Amendment rights. They're not the same level as what American citizen rights are, which is one reason, by the way, this couldn't have any impact.
So if they're not the same, wait, Joe, if they're not the same level, what are they? I mean, Tim is saying that based on anything, they could throw them out. So if Mahmoud Khalil said something like this, I'd like a French toast and some eggs, please.
Right.
And they said, on the basis of that, you're going to be deported from the country. Would the First Amendment protect him in that instance? Yes or no?
I think that would not meet that low threshold that I've said over and over. Facially legitimate.
But the INA, Tim said the INA. Wait, Tim said
Tim gave you his moral perspective.
Do you disagree with it? Wait, do you disagree with him?
Do I agree with him morally or legally?
Legally.
Is the law wrong?
Legally, do you disagree with him?
I think legally you could not just throw someone out for ordering French bread.
Okay, so
but you cannot say because he ordered French bread, I'm throwing him out.
So why can you say so?
What you can do? You can go, hey, this guy just fucking ordered French bread. You're being deported under Section 221I of the Immigration and National Naturalization Act.
But they didn't do that.
No, they literally did.
They didn't do that.
I'm saying they didn't give a reason.
Their reason is Marco Rubio's determination. Marco Rubio's determination is based.
Right, that's my point. They didn't give a reason. They cited 221.
No, they did not cite this law. They did not. They cited the basis of deportability. That's INA 237 little a little I. I think it's sub 4 or something like that. But you can go to 237. If you actually read the notice to appear, 222 is not the basis.
234.
It's 237. INA 237, and it starts. Basis of deportable aliens should be the name of the statute. It's a long subsection, but it's in sub A.
237. Okay, hold on. I think it's up here.
It's A4.
A4? 237 A4?
I'm not sure if it's 237.
Where does 237 start? I see 236, and then all of a sudden it says 237.
A4.
Oh, I see. Because it's at the bottom. You see how they do that with like one sentence at the bottom, and it makes the whole page 237?
Okay, so now go
A4.
So
we're looking. Look at all these. Wait.
Is it A1?
There isn't one. Is it A1?
I think it's A1.
Well, I'll just look for deportation.
One because there's.
Yes.
Inadmissible aliens, present in violation of law, violated non-immigrant status or condition of entry.
I think it's big four. So
they accuse them of fraud too.
Correct, but there's no material.
Big four.
Yeah,
I see.
So
isn't it stupid how they do this?
Yeah, no, it's below the criminal offenses. It's down in four under terrorism and national security.
Yeah. Okay.
So under
security and general concerns.
So it's C. It's C1.
C1.
Any alien whose presence or activity in the United States, the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States is deportable. So Secretary of State Marco Rubio didn't cite the provision that you cited. He cited 237, 4.
Like a stronger case.
CI. And he said in his determination why he's adverse to the interest is because
Israel.
He supports Hamas.
Right.
And Joe seemed to accept that if you ordered French bread, it wouldn't be a basis of removability, presumably because the First Amendment protects resident aliens. Why would it be if you support French bread, it's not a basis of removability? Why would it be if you support Hamas?
No, I think the bare minimum threshold is he has to establish that he's legitimately considered a national security threat. That those national security threats are not supposed to be fleshed out before the public. In fact, I think that would be stupid to believe that a policy is supposed to be fleshed out.
So I have a simple question. Do you believe that support of Israel is in line with American foreign policy?
It depends who gets to decide, right? I think that support for Israel probably is, yeah.
70 plus years, $250 billion?
Yeah, probably.
Do you believe that the protests are a threat to that American foreign policy?
Yeah, I might.
So...
I don't really think that, but I think the Secretary. Wait, no,
they can deport.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I just want to be clear. It doesn't matter. It cannot violate the First Amendment. That's what's clear here. I actually don't think that the protests would probably, get under that rationale, except to the extent that they're worried about people being critical of Israel. But it doesn't matter what it says because the First Amendment.
I agree. I think then the way the procedure would go is that we're going to get a Supreme Court hearing on whether it goes one way or the other.
I think he has no chance.
Maybe.
Supreme Court.
I would doubt that.
I think it's fair to say this.
He has procedural problems first and foremost. So you want to
grab the mic.
He has procedural problems first and foremost, because you have to exhaust the administrative procedure before he's able to go into federal court. But even beyond that, as I said a while ago, probably an hour ago at this point, we're at a juncture here when it comes to national security that this is the one area that the Supreme Court has refused to intercede on executive exclusive authority. And that's why for you to think that when we're talking about someone whose First Amendment rights are already lessened compared to American citizens, this has no potential ramification on First Amendment rights of any citizens. When we're talking about the fact that he's failed to abide by the same terms that enabled him to obtain a visa, and that he committed fraud in obtaining a green card, which throws into question his entire legitimacy of the green card whatsoever.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.